it's the institution's fault in that, like, what fixes moral compasses and what helps crazy people be less crazy? Family structure, community. Like, y'all need church. I mean,
Y'all need Jesus.
bless your hearts, right? I mean, but that's
We are the Armed Attorneys. Today we're talking about red flag laws or extreme risk protective orders. We just had a pretty interesting conversation over at a law school with some students about, hey, does this fit anywhere in the framework? Is there a place for red flag laws? I mean, spoiler alert, I don't know that it does, but I think it's an interesting conversation worth having because we see, I mean, there's a lot of independent folks in the middle, and we're going to put you on guard as to the kind of things they're talking about. But before we begin, show your support for the Second Amendment by hitting that like button and make sure to check your subscription status. YouTube's always monkeying around with that stuff. And we're in election censorship 1984 times, so make sure to check that stuff. So, all right, this all started with we were at the University of Houston Law Center. We were invited to talk about, we're on a panel involving red flag laws. And when we talk about red flag laws, what are we talking about?
Well, I mean, first of all, I will say, in speaking to law students, a couple things became very evident to me. Number one, I got old. I got old.
Time marches on.
They looked really young.
And they're all full of hope.
Oh God, they're full of hope. And you don't want to tell them, save your tuition money, go do something else. You can't say that out loud. You can like just try to like telepath it into the universe. Also, I have been out of academia so long that they do not want me back. I guarantee they do not want me back. I felt like a wild animal in there.
Yeah, it is pretty funny, I'll just say it. Being an observer, watching the panel, very academic, and then
me on the other end.
Q Emily, buckle up, buckaroos. You're about to hear some stuff. So I enjoyed it.
Yes. So what we have here is, I think, a very interesting discussion hosted by the actual Federalist Society, University of Houston. Thank you, Federalist Society, for having us there, upon which we had all conservative minds and spoke about whether or not there was, in fact, ever a place for red flag laws. And we had some disagreements. So first of all, what is a red flag law? As Richard mentioned, often referred to as extreme risk protective orders, which I believe to be, I just don't like that terminology at all because it is applied to people who are not, in fact, extreme risks, if you ask me. But we have this idea that there are these times in which someone is dangerous to themselves or dangerous to others, and yet they have done nothing to strip themselves of their Second Amendment right yet. So what do? We wave the red flag and we say, no, no, no. You are too dangerous. Let's go to court. Let's get an order. Let's take all your guns away because you are going to hurt someone or hurt yourself. Seems in grand theory like, oh gosh, you don't want anyone to get hurt. If we can stop horrific events before they happen, that's a good thing, right, Richard?
Well, and this is where, all right, I almost call it like applied science versus just like people working in a laboratory. You know, we learn a lot more from scientists have a gut feeling about something than they go investigate it, do some applied science. We see how it actually works in theoretical things. Devil's advocate before we blow this thing apart. I will say, you know, the idea is, all right, so we have this clear line again, not agreeing necessarily with the premise, but all right, we have these folks, we don't want to deprive them of their right to keep and bear arms for their whole life like a prohibition as a felon would be. We need this kind of intermediate, soft, wishy-washy step in the middle for those kind of borderline cases where we don't want to have an outright, you know, forever prohibition. That's kind of the postulated argument that I hear being thrown around a lot. This is what a lot of moderates think, and I don't necessarily agree with this.
No, because look, we have, all right, you are dangerous enough that you are convicted of a felony. Now, some people are convicted of felonies, they're not dangerous, but let's call it a violent felony. Okay, you are dangerous enough that you've been convicted of a felony. Okay, no more gun rights. You are crazy enough that you have been involuntarily committed and ordered by a judge into a mental institution. You've been found incompetent. Okay, you don't have your gun rights. And we're looking at people who are neither. So, I mean, even in even in the gun grabbing world, you are not dangerous enough to have been convicted of a felony offense, and you're not crazy enough to have been involuntarily committed. So we don't like that. Let's move the line back. Let's draw the line closer back so that we can deprive more people of their Second Amendment rights.
Yeah, and
That's what I think.
well, and that's the argument being made. Obviously, we do not associate with that.
No, no, absolutely not. I felt like such a radical today when I was like, under no circumstances, the government is not your friend. More legislation is not the answer. All right, hear me out here. If you are going to go with a firearm and start shooting into a group of people, well, there are no laws that can stop you from doing that because there are already laws against murder. There are often already laws against taking a firearm into a sensitive place in which these things often happen.
Yeah, the gun-free zone that it probably is taking place in.
Right. So, how do we legislate a moral compass? How do we legislate guilt? How do we legislate not being bonkers? Laws don't fix those things.
No, and I think, and I go back to this kind of frequently. Emily and I've talked about this in the past. I mean, it's just fundamentally different worldviews. You
Yes.
know, hey, if we just tinker with the system enough, we can achieve the correct outcomes, versus the hey, here's reality, and we have to put the responsibility on the individuals. I subscribe more to that latter category. I just don't think that we tinker with this stuff until we get the right outcome, fix the institutions. It's the institution's fault. No, it's the individual's fault.
It's the institution's fault in that, like, what fixes moral compasses and what helps crazy people be less crazy? Family structure, community. Like, y'all need church. I mean,
Y'all need Jesus.
bless your hearts, right? I mean, but that's in that there is some grand institutional answer. It's that. It's not that we need more laws telling people not to kill other people.
All right, so these arguments of, so that you're prepared to talk about these things, violations of due process, unconstitutionality, and then we just look at the practical considerations and, that primary argument of, hey, we haven't met this threshold of involuntary commitment or adjudication as a mental defective or felon. This is just that intermediate step. I think there's a really strong argument to be made that it's very close to that line, and so that there's really not a substantive difference there. But let's start with due process.
Sure. So we have two kinds of due process, right? We have procedural due process. We have substantive due process. Substantive due process, there is not an argument out there in the world that red flag laws do not violate your substantive due process, because there is sometimes never a definition, but never a good definition of what makes someone dangerous. It can be any kind of allegation. It can be like, oh, I've seen her drive her car and she gets real road ragey. It can be, I mean, is it as simple as, as getting drunk and putting your fist through a wall? Is it, as our standard orders now?
Is it just yelling?
Is it yell? Yeah. Do you have a temper? Our standard orders or petitions for red flags now list as one of their, this person is dangerous. Well, have they bought a bunch of firearms recently? Well,
Yeah,
does that make you
or
dangerous?
even are they a gun owner? Do they have
Right.
access to firearms?
Well,
Is the question I've seen.
does that in of itself make you dangerous? We don't know. And so if you don't know what is going to be violative of the law, you cannot obey the law, and your substantive due process rights have not been honored. Now, as far as procedural due process, I think there are many who would argue that these basically take your procedural due process boxes, in that after that initial ex parte hearing that generally happens, you get notice, you get an opportunity to show up in court, confront the witnesses against you, put on your own evidence. But we have issues there too.
Yes, and this is something that one of the other speakers raised that I was not aware of. The legal standard by which they're evaluating these orders, preponderance of the evidence. So we're talking like you got scales here, and one's just slightly tipped, more likely than not. I think probably That is a low, not a good standard for taking away
No.
someone's fundamental constitutional rights.
That is not how we take someone's constitutional rights away. And not only that, and and with I mean, much respect to our fellow panel member here because it was a fascinating conversation. But she raised an issue that I remember hearing about actually in talking to our Florida council, which is that you don't have a right to a lawyer in most of these proceedings. So if you're too poor to afford a lawyer, you're not going to get one because it's not a criminal matter. It's not a mental health commitment matter. I mean, it's just like if someone sued you over your car wreck.
Yeah.
If you can't afford a lawyer, you're just out of luck.
So I think that brings us on to constitutionality. All right, so we look at the infringement. Obviously, we're talking about taking folks' firearms away. Again, this is why, sidebar for a moment, why these red flag laws, I think that the lawmakers pushing these things don't actually care because they're not addressing the dangerous individual. They're just hyper focused on the firearms themselves. All right, off soapbox for a moment. But we look at the constitutionality. We look at this infringement, taking firearms. Is the Second Amendment implicated? By God, yes. All right, so Second Amendment implicated, burdens on the government. You have to prove that this is something that would be regulated under the Second Amendment, as I'm using the term modern. I'm using the term regulated to mean legislate.
We're doing our Bruin analysis right now.
We're doing yes. And so is that something that would have been regulated at the time of the adoption of the Second Amendment, 1791? Are there analogous laws, things where we can draw kind of reasonable inferences to say, hey, look, we didn't contemplate today's circumstances, but we have these other laws. We can force this square peg through this round hole. And we just don't have anything like that in 1791.
Affray laws. That's what they always say.
Yeah.
No, I do not believe that to be true. But that's what they always say. That's the answer every single time from the government.
And so,
affray laws are not the answers to all your prayers, government.
For those folks who might be saying, I don't know what that is. What's an affray law?
Affray laws. So affray laws criminalized basically getting on your horseback and terrorizing the town while armed, right? So you cannot go affray while armed. So, I mean, you can see how, honestly, that's the government's argument about why this is constitutionally acceptable under Bruin is, oh, you're crazy and you're dangerous and you're not allowed to go affray while you're, so crazy, Richard.
Yeah.
So until you're not crazy no more, you can't have your Second Amendment rights because you might go affray.
Well, the affray laws didn't disarm the people. They just criminalized the going to terrorize.
That's true. It did not. It only criminalized. Well, and you couldn't do it while armed.
Correct.
So if it was like, that's your UCWW pop on the horseback going to the town, right?
Sure.
For those Texans out there. So yeah, but yeah, it didn't even take away all your guns. It was just like, don't you get on that horseback and go deal with it when you're armed.
Yes. And then does this create this, all right, clear line, even though maybe we don't agree where the line is, okay? We have this line of felons. We have something that's, clearly not criminal. We have this in-between area. Do we need some kind of solution for this intermediate area? Or why is that maybe even a complete misconception?
No, it's a complete misconception. We have drawn the lines where they are for very good reason. Because the government in and of itself is inherently abusive. The government is always going to abuse your rights. Every single government, every city, county, state, federal, they are all kicking the guts out of the Constitution all the time, every day. And if you give them 1 inch of, well, here you go, let's back that line up a little bit, they're going to take a mile. You cannot give in. And again, it's not
It's
a
like
job.
a game day speech. I'm all pumped up now.
It just makes me so mad.
Well, and again, we had a fantastic discussion.
We did. It was really nice.
Why I think this, intermediate zone that, even, we see people on the right saying, hey, maybe this is something we need to be looking at. I think the biggest argument of why this isn't the solution that they say it is the way that we see red flag laws enforced and renewed, and how going back to due process, how rubber stamped this thing is. Once somebody gets in this kind of red flag, circle, they just kind of stay circling the drain.
Yeah.
And it looks
perpetually.
It looks much more closely to a lifetime prohibition than some kind of intermediate solution.
It does. And what is interesting is, and I think the conservative pro-gun argument for the red flag law, and we alluded to this earlier, is there are times where it could preserve life. It might be necessary, and you don't want to take someone's rights away entirely. If you could give them a chance to rehabilitate themselves, essentially. But we had a discussion, which I thought was interesting, which is that if someone, let's say you commit a crime, let's say you commit terroristic threat with a deadly weapon, which is completely conceivable, right? That's a felony.
Sure.
Right? Totally conceivable if you're like a little off your rocker and also armed. Super. You're going to get arrested for that. You are, if you don't have severe history or, really, I mean, if you've never been to prison, right? You don't have a bunch of convictions, you are probably going to be placed on deferred adjudication for that.
Yeah, some kind of supervised but not convicted, punishment.
Which is exactly what we're talking about. You're going to be supervised. You're going to have like lots of group work to do. You are going to be unable to purchase a firearm because you'll be under indictment for the several years you're on deferred probation. You are not going to be able to carry, maybe not possess at all while you are on said probation. But as soon as you are off that probation, you get your rights back. And then here's the thing is that you keep your rights until you do something to lose them, not until someone comes at you and says, he's dangerous. Not dangerous enough to be arrested.
I checked the form.
Yeah, I know. It just is. It is. And we are both parents, right?
Allegedly.
You hear arguments about protecting society and protecting children. And of course, everybody wants that.
That's why I carry.
Exactly. It is up to you. We are our own first responders. You cannot pass a law to stop a crazy person. If you tell a crazy person, you're disarmed now, here's a red flag law, and they want to murder you anyway, they're going to go find a gun, or they're going to go get a knife. They're going to murder you anyway.
Well,
you protect yourself.
And I'll say, I think what kind of an agreement we came to towards the end, which is this is some family talk, right? We need to be, part of having dangerous liberty is responsibility. And I think we need to self-regulate in the community. And, if you don't self-regulate, that's when the government comes in and starts monkeying around.
Yeah, self-regulate yourselves.
So, but we hope you enjoyed this discussion. If you did, consider subscribing, hitting that like button, and help us fight the anti-2A algorithm by sharing this video.
And please leave a comment for us below. We want to know, do you think there is any room to be pro-gun and also pro-red flag? Until next time, we're the arms attorneys.